And it's because of binary sex that every human being is as unique as they are.
As gay men, we need to hold up a mirror to ourselves. And I think that's true.
There has been a backlash, obviously, against the radical trans agenda. They harm children in ways that are irreversible.
20 spaces that used to be within walking distance of where I live now, and now there's only one.
Speak to friends about gay issues, and it's always queer issues or LGBT issues.
Marriage equality, we couldn't call it gay marriage, was to look exactly like the straight people.
If you were on TikTok pretending to be a non-binary person,
I could easily get away with it. Yeah.
I think people need to be bolder.
Educate yourself.
Hey everyone, it is Jack. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I am here at the very first Human Gay Male Conference in London for gay men who reject gender ideology. And let's find out what the gay men have to say. So how did you hear about this gay men's conference?
James, I know, have been following for a bit. So I'm following what they do. I had a nice chat with him at LGBT Alliance.
Through the LGBT Alliance conference a couple of years ago.
I think something just for gay men is really, really good. So I'm really pleased. Hopefully it'll be the first of many.
So a friend of mine is really involved in kind of the LGBT Alliance in Finland, and they follow James, they follow yourself actually, and they kind of recommended that I come along. Yeah, and here I am.
I think I started to pick up on the brilliant work that James is doing and sorting this out. And a need for there to be a space particularly for gay men to play their part, because we need to step up and play our part.
So for people who've not heard of Human Gay Male, what is it?
Human Gay Male is an initiative for gay men who reject gender identity ideology. We launched a year ago last night. So this is why we've done the conference today. We're 1 year in. We've been doing monthly events in London. They're just kind of social meetups in various bars and pubs for gay men to talk about gender identity and the trans issue and how it affects them, but also any other kind of issue relating to gay men or whatever they want to. We've done a few events in other parts of the UK and some in America and Canada as well. We've done the year one. Where do we go now?
What's a key issue for you, for gay men, that we're not talking about enough?
Having dignity and love for ourselves enough so that we can have our own spaces, not to take away from anybody else's stuff, but so that we can talk about our own issues.
This is going to sound like a cliche, but it's actually not. So public health. I think liberal activists and LGBTQ activists are quite afraid of quote unquote stigmatizing what they say are queer communities, using that as a euphemism for gay men. STIs, various other infections and diseases are high in gay male communities, and it might be uncomfortable to talk about. We need to talk about it more and not hide it behind euphemisms.
Older gay men and loneliness, and people who live in the countryside and perhaps don't have the support networks. That a lot of that is now no longer gay, it's all LGBT, and a lot of those issues just get forgotten about because obviously we're focusing on the kind of gender and stuff. So there's definitely stuff there that we're not even speaking about.
And for me, since I'm almost 60, that's about planning for death and dying, finding community, which it doesn't mean that the gay community is the only place I can find community, but it's the safest place I had growing up in a religious community and all of that.
I think there's a big issue of substance abuse and chemsex in the gay community. I think organizations, particularly mental health organizations that should be working to kind of combat that, raise awareness of that, those resources are directed away from that.
In the United States, the legacy so-called LGBTQI plus groups didn't discourage people from engaging in promiscuous activity when the monkeypox became endemic within gay male communities in urban areas. And this was happening also during Pride events, various parties and such, where people were openly advertising large sexual gatherings still went ahead.
You mentioned that some gay men's issues are being overlooked. So what would be some of those for you?
So I don't know if it's a UK issue, but something that really bothers me that's overlooked is the kind of impact that the trans debate is having internationally. So for example, if you look at propaganda in Russia or in Uganda or previously in Poland when peace was in power, a lot of the propaganda used includes two things. One, hypersexualization of events like Pride, where gay men are having sex in front of children or doing hypersexual things in front of children. The other of that is issues around trans and how that impacts children. And I think, as a gay man in London, it's a hugely international city. You're meeting and befriending people from all parts of the world. You're hearing about issues from countries where homosexuality is illegal or heavily restricted, or gay people face burdens that we don't have. You want to help, but the narrative is actually more directed towards something that is undermining that and is actually creating problems and producing propaganda used against gay people.
Sometimes I hear people using gay as sort of an identity. Do you think it can be a part of an identity?
No. If anybody asks me about my identity or anything about me, the fact that I'm gay is very, very low on the list. At the end of the day, it's a sexuality. It is not an identity. It is not part of who you are as a person. It's just who you're attracted to.
Yeah. We use the term gay community. So we're talking about men who are attracted to men. Is there a gay community?
My default position is binary sex is important. When binary sex emerged in evolution, there was an explosion in diversity of life on Earth. And it's because of binary sex that every human being is as unique as they are. The range of different ways that we all deal with all sorts of things in this world are because of this marvel, of this mixing of genetic. Of course, all gay men are also unique, and there are many, many different ways to be gay. I don't think there's a gay community as such. I think it's worth gay men putting out there, we are all unique.
How do you feel the gay community or the gay scene, how has it changed for you over the years?
When I was growing up, I was really into Pride, and I grew up in Brighton, and I loved all that. I think it's great. I think it's really important. Now I look back and I think it's changed something very different, and it's become something very much more socially conforming. You have to have this rainbow. LGBT is kind of like any independent thoughts. You leave those at the door.
I was excluded from, I would say, like the local gay community. First time I went into the local gay bar, pretty much everyone was saying, what the fuck are you doing here? Because of the way I looked. I mean, I was a bit more Marilyn Manson-like back then.
You go to the events, you have a dance, you wear the glitter, you don't ask questions, you don't think. I think that's what it's become. And I worry so much for young gay people coming into that. They're being told, no, you can't ask about gender. You can't say this, you can't say that. If you say that, you're a bigot. Watch RuPaul's Drag Race, go to Pride, and that's all you can do. And it's very narrow and very unthinking. So I think we need to get back away from that and say to people, yeah, you can ask questions. You can have different views. People can be gay and be a conservative. People can be gay and support reform. So hopefully, if we get back to that, I think that'll be much better.
But because I didn't fit in with that tiny little, you've got to look a certain way and behave a certain way to be part of the community. As the years have gone on, I've found my place in other communities for a long time. Like, my friends always called me the homophobic homo because I didn't agree with the mainstream gay community approach.
Are there any other situations for you personally in which this gender ideology has impacted you?
Yeah, I retired from my job in 2020. I don't have a workplace set of people that I see anymore, and I'm just very isolated.
Because of your opinions, is it?
Because the places don't exist, and when I do express my opinions, I just rock the boat.
I'd say my main thing towards the trans community, using myself as the prime example, I want to say to particularly the young kids, it's okay to look a certain way. It's okay to have a fashion, but that's all it is. It does not change your gender. People can look at me and go, oh, that's one of them non-binaries. Absolutely not.
That's a bit offensive.
Yeah.
I'm not going to flagellate myself for being the same color as the people who did colonize this country. If you do have that much problem with colonization, then I think you should leave. Otherwise, why are we talking about it?
One thing that I think is a challenge for us is how do we reach out to those younger guys that might be thinking I should go down the trans train or jump on that train because they don't feel accepted by gay men. There was somebody said in one of our discussions that we, as gay men, we need to hold up a mirror to ourselves. And I think that's true.
I mean, when it comes to pronouns and stuff, you call me whatever you want. That's the whole point of pronouns. That's how pronouns work. That's how the English language works. But at the end of the day, regardless of how I look, I'm stood here wearing high heels, makeup, long hair.
If you were on TikTok pretending to be a non-binary person,
I could easily get away with it. Yeah, I could easily be accepted visually as a non-binary. But I am a man.
I've been cancelled a couple of times for speaking out about this. I mean, fortunately, I still have my job. I'm a teacher. My work is really supportive. I'm also a Labour Party councillor. Labour Party being fine, not being investigated for that. But yeah, I've lost friends because of it. There's people that I know, not gay people and not trans people, funnily enough, most of whom actually don't believe in this nonsense anyway.
It's okay if you want to be a man and wear makeup. It's okay if you want to be a man and have long hair or wear floaty clothes and stuff. It doesn't change your gender. It doesn't change your sex.
Often, you can speak to them and explain it, and they kind of go, oh, God, that's what you mean. Oh, I just thought you were a Nazi. And it's like, no. I've just got concerns about medicalisation of children, and I support women's rights. So I think things are changing. We're in a much better place now than we were 5 years ago, but we're not there yet.
What's it like being a TERF?
Am I a TERF?
Are you?
Because to me, that's a word that women own. Like trans, I mean, it's not used in the trans exclusionary radical feminist sense. It's now just a slur, or lots of women have claimed it back. but I don't really use it because I'm a guy. So sometimes I say that I'm turfy, not a TERF. And like even the word gender critical to me is just, we don't have a name for the fact that we acknowledge that the earth is round, right? So why do I need
Well, we have a name for the people that don't, so.
Exactly, but we don't need a word for us because we're not that. So I'm just a gay man who knows what a man is.
Hey guys, I'm just having a quick break at the Human Gay Male Gay Men's Conference. I'm having such a blast. There's so many humans, so many gays, and so many males. Let's hear some more. One thing I hear a lot, you're criticizing trans people, they're going to come for your rights next. So there's a lot of moral panic in the US that next up, Trump is going to come against the gays. Trump is homophobic. Do you have thoughts on this?
There actually probably is some merit to that fear-mongering, but it's the fault of the leadership of gay activist groups who have become essentially trans and queer activist groups, intentionally always lumping all of these different people together. There has been a backlash, obviously, against the radical trans agenda because it is really extremely radical and it goes after children and they harm children in ways that are irreversible.
I think people need to be bolder on the left because what we can't have is what happened in America and saying if you support women's rights, if you're for child safeguarding, then you're right wing because then the right wing get in. So it's perfectly fine to be progressive and oppose child medicalisation and support women's single-sex spaces. So they are progressive positions.
There are some in conservative spaces, conservative activists, conservative politicians who feel like, well, we don't want any of it now. And that's the danger of gay men and women sort of remaining silent and allying themselves with sort of the most excessive and extreme parts of gender extremism. It's important for LGBT people to speak out against the radical trans agenda so that the trans and queer activists don't continue to set the narrative that they have.
I'm here with James Roberts, the founder of Human Gay Male. How are you doing, James? How's the day going?
I'm good. We've had a few hiccups that are beyond our control, like transport and storms, but the actual content has been really good. Participation has been really good. The conversations have been really good. So everyone's having a really great day.
What's it like being gay in LA?
I don't know. I've been there for 30 years. And when I first got to LA, it was a haven from Idaho and Wyoming where I grew up. I had community, went into bars where there was still a political cost to walking into a gay bar. And so it caused all this camaraderie. That was beautiful. Also, I was HIV positive. I thought I was going to die. And there was a lot of support for that and spiritual support and all that stuff. It has morphed into a place where my job now is to sit down and shut up because I am colonizing oppressor. It sucks.
What's it like for you being gay in the UK right now? What are some of the challenges?
So I live in London, so it's a bit of a bubble. I'm not sure how reflective it is of how being gay is in the regions. I think in London, there are still issues that affect the gay community and they're not always given pride of place. I'm going out in London's gay scene. It doesn't really exist anymore. It's the queer scene and there's a different ambiance to that. You speak to friends about gay issues and it's always queer issues or LGBT issues.
We don't have any more spaces. I live in Silver Lake and there's this old thing called queermaps.com. It'll show me like all the gay spaces that used to be around me. There's like 20 spaces that used to be within walking distance of where I live now. And now there's only one.
One just for men, is it?
None of the spaces are just for men anymore.
For me, it's a kind of queering of gay spaces. You go to certain venues, which were once men only, like XXL, which is a club that closed down now. That's really hard to start a new venue like that, and it doesn't exist. And I think there is a real space needed for gay men.
And I'm talking about the leather bar. They used to celebrate hypermasculinity, and now even the leather bar says it's LGBTQ all the time. And when you're pressed together in there, like watching a leather contest, you'll be pressed up against pretty women that smell like pretty women.
Do you think when you do befriend a gay man, is there something unique and special about that friendship in comparison to what you might get with girls, for example?
Yeah, it's that sort of like-minded side of it. 'Cause, I mean, I do have gay friends that aren't particularly like-minded. You know, I would say they're a bit more on the captured side, but they're quite happy to talk. They're very open. We can discuss things. You know, just because you've got differences of opinion doesn't mean you can't be friends.
One criticism I see about gay rights, you see it a lot on the right spectrum of politics. It's a bit controversial. Some people suggest that legalizing gay marriage in the US, in the West, was part of what's led us to this gender madness and trans rights. Do you have any thoughts on that? What do you think?
Popular misconception. And to that, I always say, educate yourself.
Yeah, possibly, because that was the whole push for marriage equality. We couldn't call it gay marriage, was to look exactly like the straight people.
I think for me, obviously legalizing homosexuality in 1967 was important, getting rid of Section 28. And then really the big thing for me was civil partnerships. And my hope actually then was that civil partnerships would be the default position for everyone. It got rid of the sort of religious quasi sort of side of it that went with marriage. And it was just a straightforward legal relationship that was recognized and led to all the protections that you need.
And to look like the straight people, the father knows best, leave it to Beaver, the straight couple with their kids and nobody gets arrested and it's the family with nobody problems, the TV family.
In most countries, the right to change your legal sex precedes gay marriage, sometimes by decades. So in Sweden, you could change your birth certificate or your legal sex from 1972. Germany, 1980. In the Netherlands, 1985. So that's quite a big gap. Easy to say, oh, it started with gay marriage. But no, the first woman to change her legal sex in the UK was in 1944, long before gay marriage.
I do think it's amazing that a man and a woman can have sex, and out of that comes I do think it's a wonder that this happens. I'm a vet. Biology is really important to me, and I think it's a marvel. I don't mind heterosexual people having something that they can have that celebrates that particular thing that comes with that relationship. And I do actually think that we might have done better to leave marriage as a sort of something on top of civil partnership that some heterosexual couples might have wanted for religious reasons or whatever else.
The perfect family was like that. Gays were going to be just like that. And so we were going to assimilate into the same thing like that, which is just not true. That doesn't look anything like my bio family.
So it's not correct to say that it started with gay marriage. It's just as easy as saying, oh, it's the feminists' fault. The feminists created this. That's not true.
They did.
Well, look.
They didn't. Love you, Julie Bindel. Do you have any opinions now on Stonewall and some of these large organizations?
The 2000s or 2010s has been fantastic for gay rights. We've got gay marriage, we've got gay adoption, we've got additional protections. The kind of knock-on effect of that is that people aren't going to donate to Stonewall if they're not fighting for something big and sexy and fun and tangible that people can feel in their day-to-day lives. So Stonewall, with people on six-figure salaries and making lots of money, they're not going to be like, oh, job done, or focus on smaller issues and pack up shop. So it's almost the kind of capitalism of socialism or left-wing values where they've basically gone down a path of prioritizing revenue regardless of the cost. They're a charity, but they, training people in work, diversity schemes, which are, having sat through several of them in the past, they're not the most eye-opening or useful. Actually, that's moved them away from gay people, gay rights, gay issues. You're not going to get six-figure donations talking about chemsex.
Very, very good point. Is there any credibility to Trump's administration specifically that could target gays?
I don't think so. I was referring more so within certain quarters that exist.
I agree.
On the American right or even within MAGA. There's a frustration that I can understand, actually, because if you don't really understand the issues well and the groups that are involved, it does look like it's kind of all the same. LGBTQ are all pro that, and the loudest figures you hear in media and commentary spaces are, many of them are gay men and women who are coming out pro-transing children, etc. So I can understand that. I don't think the fear-mongering is true about the administration. I think Trump has demonstrated over and over himself that he doesn't have a policy agenda against harming gay men and women. If you look at the executive order against gender extremism, all of that is about defining what male and female is biologically, and also what men and women should be defined as and understood in the law. Clear rejection of the nonsense and meaninglessness of so-called gender identity and gender expression. None of it has anything to do that has a bearing on same-sex attracted people.
It's sort of almost pro-gay because it's normalizing, sex is important to understand what gay is.
Pro-gay, one could argue, in the sense that it doubles down through a directive that sex is real. To take the other side's argument, if sex is not real, which is what they argue, then there is no same-sex attraction.
What kind of feedback have you heard from the fellow gay men here?
For a lot of them, it's the first time they've been able to have these kind of conversations with other gay men or with anyone because of how captured either their workplace is or their group of friends is. So to be able to talk to other gay men in a free speech space about these kind of issues and other issues affecting gay men, and really positive in terms of we're talking about things we can do and ways we can take things forward to kind of implement change, reach other gay men. It's great.
What did you enjoy about today?
Well, I love the venue. I'm not a Christian myself. Between the church and or religion and the gays, there's, acrimonious history there. So it feels a little subversive to be here. And I like that. I just wish there'd been a confession booth.
You would have a lot to say. Well, guys, I have a podcast episode with James if you want to hear more from him. So I will link that in the description.
Yeah, more. Stop.
Oh, what a day it's been, everyone. Lots of humans, lots of gays, and way too many males. So, if you are a human gay male, head to humangaymale.com and hope to see you at the next one.